All right, so today we are going to begin our notes on the Mayan civilization. I've broken these notes up into two parts, so this video will just be the part one of the Mayan civilization notes. So, who were the Mayans? They were a Mesoamerican culture, a Mesoamerican civilization. Mesoamerican is that area that extends in southern North America, like parts of Mexico, down through Central America and down into South America. It's the areas on the maps that you did recently. So they were a Mesoamerican culture. They're most known for their written script, their advancements in math, art, and some of their culture. They settled in Mexico and parts of Central America, as you can see on this map, predominantly in areas like Guatemala. However, they did extend north and south of there as well. And they're called the mysterious Maya because no one knows for sure where they came from or where all of them went. There is some information, but no one knows for sure where they came from. So, their origins. They began to settle in the Yucatan area of what is now Mexico, that area in the map that I just showed you, between 2600 BC and 1800 BC. So, they are an ancient people that have been there for thousands of years. They began as a collection of city-states or small regions, small towns that had no main central government. Each city, each area governed itself. It had its own way of doing things, and there wasn't one higher power that they had to report to. As far as their governments, each city-state had one noble family, and that noble family would be a wealthy family that had a lot of power that was in charge of controlling that city and making sure that the day-to-day operations were in order, that monies were in order, that crimes were being punished. Basically, all the things you could think that a ruler would have, one noble family would have that power for each city. And some of these cities were very large cities. So you had a lot more power and a lot more wealth if you ran one of those cities. And each of these cities would even have their own armies so that they could fight other city states if need be. The head of the noble family would choose officials that would act as the judges and law enforcement in the area. So these could be retired soldiers and warriors. They could be elderly people in the community that are well respected, or they could just be members of his own family that he wants to give a leg up to or give some sort of promotion to. And now those people then become the ones that help enforce the law and enact punishments and run the courts within that city state. It is important to note that in the Mayan Empire, a woman could be the ruler of a city state. They did not shun women as inferior beings in that sense. Women were allowed to be active in the government. They were allowed to play roles within economics and the state of the finances of the empire, and even within the religion. So women had a lot more power than you typically see in ancient civilizations. At their height of the empire, around the year 250 all the way up to 900 AD, everything was pretty much thriving. They started constructing large towers, large buildings, pyramids. Trade and culture flourished. They were able to trade with other civilizations, other city-states, traded with each other. And so they pretty much had everything they needed, and they were a thriving population at that time. So, some little facts about the Mayan civilization. Even though they had several different city states and smaller city states, they all spoke the same Mayan language. And it wasn't necessarily called Mayan, but it was a Mayan language. They all worshiped the exact same gods as each other. They set up their cities and designed them in the same way. While they might not have the same written set of laws, they all were very similar with the same basic ideas. They all dressed in the same way, same styles, and their cities were connected with roadways that they kept in good repair so that the city-states could communicate with each other. They could trade with each other. And that's presumably how a lot of these ideas spread, and they had the same one. So while they might rule each city state individually and it has its own thing, they were one empire, one civilization. They had a common culture, a language, common calendar, common religion, just a common way of life. So while they were very spread out within that area and kind of isolated because they were individual city states, they were still one people, and they viewed each other as one people. So, where are they now? This is actually the last slide for the part one notes. By around 900 CE or 900 AD, the Mayan cities were mostly deserted. Um, they kind of started to die out. There were still Mayans around, but they didn't necessarily live in the same way that they had. It's possible that they had been kind of absorbed into other tribes, other cultures, but about 40% of Guatemala's modern population, along with people outside of Guatemala, can trace their ancestry all the way back to ancient Maya. So Guatemala does still have several Mayan people there and people that have that proud heritage. What's important to note that Guatemala did have a civil war about 40 to 50 years ago. And part of that effort was to get rid of that Mayan culture and to kind of have a new way of doing things. And so the Guatemalan government, along with the assistance of other governments, basically attacked these Mayan villages. And they were not like destitute small villages, but communities of Mayan people. And there was a genocide. There were many people killed. And so a lot of these people that did escape hid up into the mountains of Guatemala. So that's where many of these people that can trace their ancestry back still are found today. And it's safe for them to come out again, but they have now placed roots there again. So that is the start of your information about the Mayan people.